When young locomotive engineer Denis spotted a pack of wolves on the tracks ahead of his thundering train, he was sure they'd scatter at the last moment. But the predators stood firm, as if guarding something unseen. Risking everything, he yanked the emergency brake, knowing he might not stop in time when the train screeched to a halt mere yards from the pack. The gray sentinels parted, revealing a sight that would haunt anyone who heard the tale. Denis was born to the railroad, just like his father and grandfather before him. Raised in Tayshet, a remote Siberian town nestled in the vast boreal forest of the taiga, he grew up to the rhythm of train whistles, as familiar as birdsong or a dog's bark. The rail yard was Tayshet's lifeblood, its work, its pride, its survival. Without the trains, the town would have faded into the wilderness. As a boy, Denis roamed the tracks, eyes fixed on the locomotives his family drove, dreaming of the day he'd take the throttle. To make that dream real, he left for the city to train as an engineer. He excelled, sharp, meticulous, dependable, earning praise from instructors. Upon graduation, the railway offered him a plum job. Assistant engineer at a bustling hub with good pay, promotion prospects, and a company apartment. It was hard to say no. Denis nearly said yes. But first, he took leave to visit home. The contrast hit him like a freight train. Instead of urban clamor and exhaust, he found the endless chorus of birds and the scent of pine and wildflowers. Instead of gray high-rises, an unbroken sea of green. Days melted away as he wandered the taiga with Ranger Stepan, a family friend and local guardian of the wild. It was like stepping back into childhood. They trekked for hours through the forest, Stepan sharing tales of its hidden creatures. Denis rediscovered a world he thought he'd left behind. Stepan's stories about wolves struck deepest.
Wolves are special. They live for family,
Stepan said, pausing in a clearing, eyes scanning the trees.
A wolf will die for its pups, or mate, without hesitation. They're bound by loyalty, by order. I've pulled cubs from poachers' snares, freed adults from traps, nurse a wounded pup, and the pack takes it back, cares for it like kin. But men with guns, hunting for profit, break those sacred laws. Poachers are the real menace here.
Breathing the taiga's crisp air, feeling the earth beneath his boots, Denis knew he couldn't return to the city's grind. His heart belonged to the forest, to its silence broken only by birds or a snapping twig. When his leave ended, his choice was clear. He'd stay. At Tayshet's rail yard, where his father and grandfather had toiled, Denis was welcomed as one of their own, not just a skilled graduate, but a son of the rails. Yet tradition held firm. Newcomers didn't touch the throttle right away. Patience was a virtue here. You proved yourself through routine, fixing brakes, logging reports, enduring cold nights and sudden breakdowns. They tested your grit as much as your skill. So Denis started small, tightening bolts, filing paperwork, learning the yard's rhythm. He didn't push or complain. He showed he understood the rules and would earn his place. 6 months later, his chance came. His first run as assistant engineer, riding in the cab's right seat. If he did well, the throttle might soon be his. The day he dreamed of was here, tinged with a flicker of fear. But that morning, everything changed. The lead engineer fell ill with a fever. No replacement was available. The coal train, loaded and urgent, couldn't wait. The dispatcher fixed Denis with a look. "You got this?" His chest tightened. He'd trained for this, but not alone. No mentor, no safety net. He nodded. "I've got it." His first run became truly his own. Joy, fear, and duty knotted in his gut. There was no turning back. The January morning, sunlight danced on fresh snow, and the cold stung his cheeks, steaming his breath. He climbed into the cab, now more real than any training run. He turned the key, relays clicked, gauges lit up as if whispering, "Ready?" The diesel growled to life, warming the cab. The heater melted frost from the windows, revealing the tracks ahead. His hand found the throttle, a gentle nudge. Tons of steel shuddered, then rolled forward, obedient to his touch. Just as he'd been taught. But this time, alone. An hour in, his nerves settled, blending with the wheel's steady clack and the taiga's quiet beyond. His movements grew sure, his gaze sharp. He was finding the rhythm of the rails, as if he'd driven solo for years. Guiding the heavy coal train through the forest, he watched the tracks vanish into snowy mist. The wheel's beat mingled with the heater's hum. The cab smelled of hot metal, diesel, and oil, laced with coffee from his thermos and a faint whiff of warm rubber. Then, a mile ahead, something dark flickered at the track's edge. His heart lurched. First solo run, and already trouble. 50 cars behind him, hundreds of tons, breaking distance over a mile. He had to decide fast. As the train closed in, the shapes sharpened. Wolves, dozens, pacing on and beside the rails. They didn't flee the train's roar. They circled, eyes darting from the tracks to the trees and back to the oncoming locomotive. What were they doing? Why wouldn't they move? "Get off!" Denis shouted, to himself, to them, and slammed the horn. The blast tore through the silence, echoing across the pines. The wolves flinched, retreating a few yards, but didn't flee. Their agitation surged. A large male with rusty fur leaped onto a snowbank, threw back his head, and howled. A piercing cry answered by the pack. That wild chorus cut deeper than the horn. Training screamed in his head. Don't break, animals scatter. Emergency stops risk derailment, damage, delays. But the wolves' frantic howls, their stubborn stand, felt wrong. Too close, too long, too strange. In that frozen moment, snow, rails, the wolves' cry. He felt a pull, not from textbooks, but from the taiga's lessons and Ranger Stepan's tales. Wolves signaled danger. His fledgling career hung in the balance. A mistake could end his dream. Shame his father's legacy. Yet something deeper urged him to act. Hands shaking, he defied protocol. He yanked the emergency brake. Steel screamed as cars jolted, slamming into one another. Denis clenched his teeth, gripping the lever. Would the brakes hold? Would the rail? He whispered a prayer to avoid disaster on his first run. The screeching stopped. The train stood still. Denis sat frozen, hands locked on the lever, knuckles white as fate. Slowly, he unclenched them, feeling blood pulse back into his fingers. The wolves fell silent, retreating to the trees, not fleeing, but guiding, watching. Heart pounding, Denis stepped onto the running board, wrench in hand, half expecting an attack. But the pack parted, their yellow eyes fixed on something between the rails, a dark shape, dusted with snow. "Stepan?" Denis gasped, dropping to his knees. He grabbed the ranger's shoulder, the jacket stiff with cold. Stepan's eyes fluttered open.
Kartsev,
He rasped, voice faint. Denis stiffened, recalling the poacher Stepan despised.
he trapped the wolves, their pups, tried to kill me.
Stepan tried to rise, but his hand fell limp in the snow.
The wolves, they knew.
Denis glanced back. The pack stood at the forest's edge, watching. The rusty-furred male met his gaze as if saying, "We did our part. Your turn." Then they melted into the trees. Denis radioed for help, voice steady despite his racing pulse. He stayed by Stepan's side until paramedics arrived. 2 weeks later, Kartsev and his crew were arrested, Furs, traps, and weapons uncovered in a hidden stash. Though Kartsev stayed silent, the court convicted him of attempted murder. The story spread through the yard. Co-workers nodded with quiet respect. The chief summoned Denis when the dust settled.
You followed your instincts,
He said, eyes steady.
even when it felt wrong. You saved a life. That's how real engineers are forged.
He paused.
Monday, the throttle's yours.
The next day, Ranger Stepan, arm in a sling but standing tall, gripped Denis's hand.
Thank you, son, he said softly. You saved my life.
Only then did Denis grasp what that choice on the snowy tracks had cost and given him. Now, passing that stretch of rail, Denis slows and scans the forest's green wall. At dusk, he sometimes glimpses a wolf's silhouette. He sounds the horn once, twice, softly. The taiga answers with a faint howl or perhaps an echo. But Denis knows he's home.